It sure does sound that the Chicago Bears are prepared to get devastating news in regard to one of their star players on the defense. And today's episode of Geek on the Mic starts right now.
Cali, the Chi-Town is Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Geek on the Mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Geek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. First and foremost, happy Saturday to every single one of you guys. We are only one day away until the Chicago Bears look to get to 8-3 against a very tough Pittsburgh Steelers opponent. I am definitely looking forward to that matchup just to see where the Chicago Bears stack up. And as always, I will be going live for a live play-by-play plus reaction stream right here on the podcast. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for me to watch the Bears take on the Steelers at Soldier Field. So Bears fans, we have some almost bad news for the Chicago Bears. And it starts off with the injuries. We all know the injuries on the defense have been terrible all season long. We've been out without Jalen Johnson for the duration of the season. And we've been out without Kyler Gordon for a couple of weeks. We've been out without TJ Edwards for the last couple weeks as well. But this week has been especially tough for the Chicago Bears defense because they're going to be without all three starting linebackers, headlined by Tremaine Edmunds. Tremaine Edmunds is dealing with a groin injury. Now it sounds like the Chicago Bears are possibly prepared to put Tremaine Edmunds on IR for the next 4 games. And this comes from Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune. This is what he said on X this morning. He says, the Bears media website shows that linebacker Tremaine Edmunds has been moved to injured reserve. We'll see if that is announced by the club. One source this week said the groin injury Edmunds was likely a multi-week injury. He said, stay tuned on this one. And as you guys see by the picture on this post, Tremaine Edmunds is clearly on the injury reserve part of the Chicago Bears media site. Bears fans, I really hope that this is not the case. Tremaine Edmunds has been nails for the Chicago Bears, and he's really has found his footing for the first time ever since being signed by the Chicago Bears just a couple of offseasons ago. And it's really because of the new defensive coordinator and Dennis Allen putting him in the best situations to succeed. When you look at Tremaine Edmunds, Bears fans, he has been playing like a top 10 linebacker in the National Football League. He has 89 tackles, which is 11th in the NFL, 1 sack, 4 interceptions, which is tied for second in the National Football League. Tremaine Edmunds has been a huge reason why the Chicago Bears lead the league in takeaways. If he was to go on IR for the next 4 games, that means he wouldn't be able to return until Week 16, the December 20th, at home at Soldier Field against the Green Bay Packers. And once again, that would be a huge blow, especially with all the tough games that the Chicago Bears have coming up. Once again, you take on the Steelers tomorrow, then you have the Philadelphia Eagles on Black Friday, followed by the Green Bay Packers after that. So obviously those are all games that you would love to be healthy for, and Tremaine Edmunds will be a huge blow in the middle of that defense. That means the Chicago Bears would really have to depend on a couple of things. We'd really need guys like TJ Edwards that's been out for a couple of weeks to really come back healthy, hopefully for that Friday matchup against the Eagles and so on. Of course, Noah Sewell, hopefully he comes back as well healthy, and then maybe that would, accommodate for having Tremaine Edmunds out for the next couple of weeks. And then you have to depend on more guys like Ruben Hippolyte. Obviously, they signed Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and he's currently on the practice squad. I expect them to move him up for tomorrow's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially with all 3 of our starting linebackers being out for tomorrow's game. And if they do bring up a guy like Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a guy that's 30 years old, a vested veteran in the National Football League in 2021, when he was thrusted into that role, being a death piece for the Detroit Lions and had some significant snaps on the defensive side of the football for the Lions. He had 82 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended. He's also could be a huge help as a special teamer as well. So, of course, it's always going to be next man up mentality for the Chicago Bears. We're going to have to just trust the coaching staff led by defensive coordinator Dennis Allen to just really be creative. I do think there's a way for the Chicago Bears to possibly offset the injuries that are currently going on, especially in the linebacker room for this defense. Hopefully we get Jalen Johnson and or Kyler Gordon back, maybe both, for tomorrow's matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers and so on. They are both listed as questionable for tomorrow's matchup against the Steelers. I think think Dennis Allen's got to play more of a dime look, maybe having Jaquan Brisker and Gardner Johnson help has maybe like hybrid linebackers and, getting some pressure on rather it's Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. But really what concerns me, at least about this matchup tomorrow against the Steelers, is that they have two really good tight ends. And then when you look at Darnell Washington, he is a left tackle in a tight end's body, right? So he is a really big presence in the passing game, run blocking. And then when you get him out in space and he's trying to get yards after the catch, you saw what he did last week, just throwing guys around. And that's when you're really going to miss guys like TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmunds, guys that are going to be, just a bigger presence in the middle of that field. Sure, tacklers. So hopefully Ruben Hippolyte, guys like Jalen Reeves-Maybin, if he does get called up for tomorrow's game, can step up in a big way. But we're definitely going to have to keep track of if Tremaine Edmunds goes on injury reserve, because that means he would probably miss the next 4 games, and that would be a huge blow for the Chicago Bears defense, especially the way that he has been playing this season. So Bears fans, let me know down below in the comment section how you feel about the possible news of linebacker Tremaine Edmunds hitting IR due to that groin injury. Bears fans, before I let you guys go on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I just want to talk about a crazy statistic that's going on with the Chicago Bears offense right now. Currently, the Chicago Bears are 7-3, and they have a top 10 offense in every single category, but it's really headlined by their rushing attack. They are currently second in the league in rushing for over 145 yards per game. And going into the season, we thought that was going to be a weak point for the Chicago Bears, led by DeAndre Swift and 7th round pick in Kyle Monangai. But Ben Johnson has truly made it work here in Chicago, and it really all starts up front in the retooled offensive line. And here's another crazy stat, and this goes Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports, and this is what he had to say. And the Chicago Bears are actually making history in how well they are running the football. He said, Bears fans, the running backs have gained 12 or more yards on 9.2% of their runs this year, which ranks 4th and are currently 1st in rushing success rate in the entire NFL at a whopping 46.7%, which is easily the best by a Bears offense since at least 2002. In fact, since 2013, 5 of the Bears' top 11 games in terms of rushing success rate have come this season, and 6 of their top 16 since 2002. Meanwhile, 52% of the Bears' run plays to their running backs gained 4 or more yards, the second highest rate in the NFL this season. Once again, Bears fans, huge shout out to what general manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson did up front, bringing in Drew Dahlman, bringing in Joe Tooney, bringing in Jonah Jackson. Obviously, the way that Darnell Wright is playing out the right side, and then even Theo Benedict, making that switch from Braxton Jones to Theo Benedict, and how good of a run blocker Benedict is on that left side has really set the tone up front. And this is just, once again, Ben Johnson is the key here. He did it in Detroit with the Detroit Lions. Obviously, he has David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But what Ben Johnson is proving is that you do not need elite running backs as long as you have a good offensive line and you have an offensive coach, or at least offensive coaches, to scheme to your players' strengths in DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. That means you can get it done up front. And once again, we've said for the longest time that you win and lose in the trenches. The Chicago Bears, in terms of their offensive line, are finally winning every single play in the trenches, creating massive lanes for DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. And every single week, Ben Johnson just has a very masterful game plan for the Chicago Bears running backs, for the Chicago Bears offense. And right now it's working, and no team in the National Football League has figured out a way to stop it. Of course, you can add in the yards by Caleb Williams, by him evading and sack avoidance, and he maybe rushes for 40 plus yards per game, and that definitely helps the rushing numbers. But Ben Johnson and the Bears offense always comes to plan. You know that he wants to run the football. It starts up front with this retooled Chicago Bears offensive line. And it's a very positive trend, not only for this year, but for years to come, because that's the identity that Ben Johnson is trying to instill. He did it in Detroit, and now he is doing it here. It's just a really cool stat to see that he's able to do it with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, 2 players that we thought was going to be a huge weakness in this offense, and they are definitely getting it done. And it's a huge reason why the Chicago Bears are sitting at 7-3, and why I feel like they can be competitive for the rest of the season. So, Bears fans, fans, let me know down below in the comment section how you feel about this cool trend going on with the Chicago Bears in terms of their rushing success. I can't wait to hear from you guys. But as always, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for all new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on the